And we are live. What is up, everyone? Welcome on in. Happy Tuesday.
Dash back seats with. Show your badge.
Hey Dash, how are you doing? Welcome on in. Again, there's no badge here. It's the armband. But anyway, yeah, hey Dash, how are you doing? Hope everything's doing well. Alright. So yeah, we did Portal yesterday. As much as I want to continue that, today we're gonna continue Ace Attorney. So yeah, we're on the second part of Case 4, second part of the trial in Case 4. So hopefully we could get through that tonight. I don't know if there's another investigation section for this one, but who knows? As we go along, the cases get longer, as with any Ace Attorney game. So yeah, hopefully we'll finish Case 4 tonight. If we do finish early, I won't start Case 5, but we'll check out the other extras up until the Case 4 extras. So I did see that there are some extras in the extra section. Yeah, feeling better. Yeah, good to hear. Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to listen on earlier, but sorry, I was at work. I was working. I had you in one of my monitors, and anyway, I'll probably catch up soon. That would be improved by 5 seconds by skipping refill stations. Really? What if I need to refill my water, Aniv? But yeah, alright, let's continue Ace Attorney. Oh yeah. I really have nothing to say. Alright. Okay. Alright. Here's the badge, here's the armband, so yep. Don't be sorry. Okay. Oh wait, I haven't checked this one out. Oh, this is Kazuma's. Nurse name is embroidered inside. Yep. Yeah, I know, but yeah, I really wanted to be there for you during that time. But anyway, yeah. Let's not dwell on the past, let's dwell on the present. Yep, let's do this. Alright, and yeah, it seems like the insignia and the armband is the same with what we have with the badges nowadays. Scales of Justice, symbol of the defense. To show that all are treated equally in the eyes of the law. Show your armband. They're warning to those who enter the courtroom without an impartial mind. But if they're the mark of the defense, it'd be more auspicious if they were weighing more heavily in the not guilty side, I think. Very impartial, I'm sure. Alright. Time for the summation examination. I have considered the defense's counsel request for a further summation examination of the jury, and I have determined that the court must uphold the defense's judicial right to this procedure. I'll now proceed with your second summation examination. Presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman. We are, my lord. Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the court the grounds on which you find the defendant guilty. Accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his. Alright. So we know that... Okay, we know that there were 4 books in the scene. 3 books are his. The 4th isn't. If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. Even the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? Dear me, it was only a little book, hardly life-threatening, even with a direct hit. Look, I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a tidy bit of trouble. Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. It gave me the sneezes. Because of the ashes? Considerably more tangible arguments from all the members of the jury. How tangible is I need to go and make money? With no notable exception, of course. My learned student friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness testimony. So the court must accept the fact that it was indeed the accused seen fleeing from the scene. And moreover, how many chalices will you break? No one else was even at the scene to commit the crime. Well, if the eyewitnesses are correct, it would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. Fail to see how it can be argued any other way. Means I'm afraid that during the summation examination, it's essential that they establish some other tangible explanation for the facts. That would even constitute a tangible explanation here. Isn't it obvious? Evidence. Who stabbed the woman and how? Those two details are all you need to provide. Simply give us a name and method by which the attack was conducted. I was thinking this might be hard. Mr. Naruhodo, you might have to do it, otherwise this is really where the trial ends. No pressure then. That's quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. I assume you're a prepared counsel. Yes, my lord. Alright, focus your mind now. Face slap. Clearly the key is going to be juror number 4, the maid. Or should I say Mrs. Garideb. We have a book that disappeared from the Garideb's house on the evening of the incident, and the 4th book found in the victim's hand. There must be a way to link the two. Alright, so the 4th book found in the scene was allegedly from Mr. Garideb, and it was burnt. So, yep. Have you checked your... Never mind, wrong courtroom. Hey, Coburn, what's up? Thank you for being a fan. How are you doing? How do you say butthole in ye olden times? Have you checked your rectum or something? Show my
Dash
armband.
backseats with. Show your armband.
Alright. Accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of it. Alright, now I remember I can press each juror's statements. But as we now know, there were 4 books, not 3. Well, what difference does it make? There's every possibility that the 4th book, in fact, belongs to the defendant's landlord. Yes, that's the part I have a problem with. Well, at the point the woman was stabbed, this landlord fellow was at home, wasn't he? Enjoying a fiery scrap with his wife or something, you said. It's not exactly how I put it. Anyway, the point is, the fellow and his wife were somewhere else when it happened. I think that's what you call a strong alibi. So it couldn't have been the landlord who did it, which only leaves the Nepalese fellow. Honestly, I can't see what all this palaver's about. It's a done deal, isn't it? Suppose it is, since I've nothing witty left to say. If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. Novel! AKA book. So you might be willing to change your decision, you mean? Oh my, such delight in your face. But I'm afraid I shan't be swayed by emotion. Despite what you may think of me, I am a very modern, metropolitan, and rational woman. You said shan't. That's great. If one reads the morning papers, it's all forgotten by tea time, isn't it? So why read them in the first place? You see, modern, metropolitan, and rational thinking. Not at all extreme. As I see it, an overwhelmingly suspicious Japanese man has been implicated by overwhelmingly strong testimony. So despite 1 or 2 minor puzzlements, I do declare that the man is overwhelmingly guilty. Modern, metropolitan and rational logic, what did you say? Overwhelmingly. But as modern gals are always delighted to embrace new fads, you know? So I won't be too happy to consider an exciting new theory if you could come up with one. I'd be happy to do that too if only I could. Let's do our very best not to disappoint the modern and metropolitan young lady. Right. I'm glad you omitted rational there. Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it?
Hold it!
But is the window actually closed? What about the possibility that the window was open? What about it? I mean, there's just no way it could have been. Can you be so sure? The prosecutor fellow over there said it earlier, didn't he? Winters in London are no joke. You don't want to invite that sort of cold indoors. So no, that window wasn't open. Us Londoners like sitting by the fire and staying warm. Yeah, you couldn't categorically state that the window wasn't open. There was a fire, so there was potentially smoke and you want the smoke to go out. It just wasn't, they wouldn't have opened it. Then what's the point in even having windows? Counsel, you will kindly refrain from childish bickering. I'm sorry. Somehow I need to show there's an undeniable possibility that the window was open. Because this young man isn't going to budge otherwise. Okay, I do need to like press this. I need to press the last three because they have like what they call this? They have reasons that are not based on the testimonies.
Hold it!
But the little book was on fire at the time, was it not? With flames of love, I'll have you know. There's really no such thing as a loving incendiary bomb. He brought it up upon himself. It's playing with fire to betray a fire love. Isn't it? Well, don't you agree? Well, any kind of betrayal is certainly a bad thing, yes. But I think the argument might have arisen out of your misunderstanding, Mrs. Garrett. Never you mind that. The point is you were just having a jovial little dispute, nothing more. And I won't have any more of these suggestions that it wasn't anything whatsoever to do with this crime. We'll see about that, but what about juror number 5? He doesn't seem to be turning a hair at Mrs. Garridem's relentless onslaughts. He's the punching bag. It's almost as though he's used to it. What a gentle soul. Look, I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a tidy bit of trouble. You just want to get this over with? How can you sit there and say something like that? Man's future is at stake here. He and me both. Like I said before, he doesn't get paid. They labor, aren't I? If I don't bring home some readies with me tonight, you'll find me floating face down in the Thames tomorrow morning. What? You heard me. My missus isn't one to mess about, you know. She can be fierce, believe you me. Another shining example of marital bliss then. Situation like this cropped up the other day. It was, well, you know it's funny, but I can't quite remember. Sorry? It was too frightening, that's the thing. I must have blocked it out. Helpful. Wonder if Mr. Beat will ever be dragged into the Thames by his scarf. I never go there, Mrs. Sato. There must be some way to jog his memory about this. Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. It gave me the sneezes. Okay, there's something with Juror 5's explanation, so I probably need to present evidence. Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in this case? Sorry, what's that? You'll have to speak up, lad. Could you tell us more about that fire? It was last winter. My grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on the top, it did. What a sight to behold it was. You put candles on a cake? Was it kind of devil worship? Of course not. It was an angel cake to celebrate my birthday. It seems that that's a common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo. My God. I don't even have candles on my birthday cake. It's just like cake. And if it has a candle, it's just probably one. Anyway, I mustered all my puff to blow them out. Only I must have blown wrong somehow. The flames didn't go out, but candles went flying all over the room. Furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place filled with smoke. That sounds like devil worship to me. And by the sneezes, I presume you mean the cold. But how did you catch a cold from a fire? Yo, Mr. Girl, what's up? Welcome on in. How are you doing? And thank you for the lurk, really do appreciate it. Hope everything's doing well. Okay, what a fiasco it was. The grandchildren, blessed them, threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And then because the whole room had filled up with smoke, of course, we had to open all the windows to clear it. Alright, the windows. The biting winter air rushed over me like the devil dancing on my grave, it did. I caught a terrible cold from it. It put me in the hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry. You're good? Just at school? Nice. I just hope you're not watching this while you're having classes. Because no, attend your classes. If it's your free time, it's okay. But if you're having classes, go to your class. Yeah, I won't forget that birthday in a hurry. I knew it was devil worship all along. Something about this old man's story is playing on my mind for some reason. Okay, it's break. Alright, good. Good. We need to demonstrate who, apart from Mr. Natsume, could have attacked the young woman in the street, as well as how he or she could have done it. Yes, but once again, the jurors' statements are full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced they're right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary. Yep, we have to pit them against each other. Don't necessarily need to find contradictions between their assertions, just a connection might do the trick. Alright, That's the spirit. Okay. There was somehow the victim... Window was closed. Alright, so it should probably be 3 and 6. Right? Oh, wait. Okay, he changed. This changed. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a tidy bit of trouble. Alright. 5 and 6's statements have changed. Because this is like, dear me, it was only a little book, hardly life-threatening. Even though the direct hit. Okay, so I think I want to press both statements again.
Hold it!
Okay, no. I think this is just the same. Okay, so they just changed their statements, but I did have to repress it to get more information. Okay, save scum time. Alright, so I think I have to like pit... No, I think I have to pit 6 with 3 because they were both talking about the window.
Objection!
Okay, music's stopped. These two juror statements clearly contradict one another. They do? How exactly, counsel? Don't point at me again. I told you it wasn't me. Huh? What's that you say? Speak up, lad. Speak up. Juror number 3, do you see? Me? See what, sir? Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter. Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the... Exactly. On the day in question at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garadeb household. And Mr. Garadeb had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke.
Oh my.
Oh my god, you can check the reaction. Holy crap, that can happen with juror statements. Wow, I thought that can only happen with witness testimonies. She's getting caffeinated, yeah. Tea has caffeine, right? So all right. I thought you can like only like press reactions during witness testimonies. You can actually do that in juror summation examinations. Mrs. Garrett. Oh dearie me. What is the meaning of this? How dare you imply that I'm hiding who I really am? It's imperative that you confirm something for the court. So please, it's time to drop the pretense now. What is it? When the fire started in your house that day, did you or your husband open the window? Well, I beg your pardon, what are you insinuating? The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window. And what if it did? Oh, alright then. Yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window, which can't have been easy since I continued to give him justly deserved book battering. Even though your house was on fire. Oh, you never stop throwing until the anger subsides. It would be terribly bad for the nerves to do otherwise. Adrenaline. Of course, I should have realized. That's a significant step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. You've managed to establish that the window was open. We simply must have that added to Mrs. Garideb's formal statement. Now you mention it, yes, the window was open at the time. I'd clean forgotten, but it's true.
Hold it!
The fourth book found at the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book, The Lion's Pride, same title in fact as the book that Mr. Garideb told us he had been reading. Well, I really couldn't say. On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband the copy of The Lion's Pride that he had been reading? I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I hurled it straight at him. And now you come to mention it, yes. He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right. Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset? Because I couldn't, you insolent little man. I didn't remember. At times like that, you pick up and throw whatever you can lay your hands on, as you well know. I really don't. I barely noticed I was throwing a book, much less the little of it. Okay, now another juror is reacting.
Excuse me!
Holy crap! You know something? I've remembered what it was, that memory I'd blocked out. It was listening to what this granny was saying. Brought it all flooding back. Who are you calling a granny, you cheeky devil? I'm Mrs. Garideb or the maid, I'll have you know. The man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that it's not because he's used to being hit all the time. It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got back home after work. I put my hand in my pocket for the wages I just earned that day and I nearly died. There was a hole. Every last penny had dropped out. Wouldn't you have felt it like rolling down your legs? Oh dear, what a disaster. You haven't heard the half of it, boy. The wife was cutting up some chicken at the time. I could hardly get the words out, but I told her straight, I've lost the day's wages, love. Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear, stuck into the wall next to me. It did. About an inch deep. No words, just terror. Could smell it then, you know, that god-awful stench of the Thams. I was sure I was going to end up face down in the muddy banks that night, I can tell you. Now, it's a real disaster, isn't it? I'll never use the word lightly again. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When women lose their rag, they'll throw anything at you. Knives, hatchets, hammers, you name it. Sir Naruto, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined. No, I wasn't thinking that. Wearing household objects at people is, well, so it's uncivilized. At least attack with honor, using a bow or the like. Attack? Who are you going to attack? Never mind. Anyway, this man's words could be rather significant, I think. Alright, we'll come back to the bow and arrow thing later, if I dare. A woman in rage will hurl almost anything at you. The kitchen knife really brought that home to me.
Hold it!
Okay, now, after this reaction, will someone else react? I mean, sorry, after this statement. That's right, she was chopping meat with it. Had a tidy edge on it, believe me. Still, it's all memories, isn't it? It started with that smile she threw me when we were courting. And since then, the list of things she's thrown at me has grown along with our relationship. There's a cup, then a glass, then a pot, then a kettle, a chair, a wardrobe, a cooker, a bathtub. Your wife must be even beefier than you. And things came to head last week when she threw me right into the thams. Wow. Still, she's not bad when she's calmed down. She's a little sweetheart, really. I'm so happy for you. If you want to know what I think this whole idea of ladies first that we're so obsessed with in this country was thought up by some clever lads who'd been tossed into the thams of you too many times by their wives. Wow. Miss Hulk. That's a very interesting theory. What a terrible thought. On the face of it, these juror statements just sound like a really extreme anecdote. But I think it might turn out to be an extremely powerful weapon. A weapon I might be able to use to make the jurors accept an alternative explanation. Okay, wait. So, alright. That means I could potentially pit 3 with 5 because of the throwing statement. And I can pit 4 with 6. Right? Okay. Window could have been opened. No, I can pit 2 with 5. Because an alternative explanation about the victim was stabbed, a knife might have been thrown out. Right?
Objection!
The music stopped. Alright, those two statements clearly have a deeply significant connection. Good grief, you mean they don't contradict each other? Explain, counsel, at once. Juror number 2, do you think perhaps that this could be one such novel alternative? Oh my, whatever do you mean? An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back. What are you talking about? We've demonstrated that the 4th book, The Lion's Pride, that was found at the scene of the crime, originated in Mr. Gardeb's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Gardeb household to the street below. What's that now? After all, Mrs. Gardeb could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4? What are you insinuating now, you little beanpole? You have to go to math class. Alright, no worries, mystery girl. Thank you for dropping by. Perhaps you had a feeling this might be what happened. Now you listen here, you Eastern Gala. As the foreman of this jury, I demand a straight answer. You give us this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house, but what? What was it? It's the knife. You're welcome. Maybe listen. Attend your class. Listen to your teacher. But anyway, yeah. That was a bold accusation to make, but I haven't any real evidence to back it up. It was the knife. It was the stabbing weapon. But I'm certain that at the very least this warrants further investigation. Alright, Mr. Foreman, I'll try to explain the defense's theory. The other object that found its way from the Garadeb household to the scene of the crime was the knife.
Take that!
Juror number 4, Mrs. Garadeb. I must apologize in advance for this. But I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before? Ah, good lord, Counsel, what on earth are you doing? That's the weapon that was lodged into the victim's back, man. My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb were in the throes of an argument. Mrs. Garadeb was hurling anything she could at her husband who'd been backed up against the window. A window that had been opened to clear the smoke and through which a book sailed to land at the scene of the crime. You can't seriously believe that. The book was found in the victim's grasp. Are you saying that it flew out of the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand? Huh? Even my missus hasn't gone and got an aim like that. Yes, I admit there are many details we won't yet understand, but that's the point. That's precisely why we must not allow this trial to end, not right now. Oh my. Ah! Mrs. Garadeb, your answer please. Have you seen this knife before or not? Oh, Ah! Thud. My lord, I wish to change my decision. Dead. I'm a woman of my word after all. Thank you, madam. Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but... Oh, wow! Foreman has changed. Wow. I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end now with so many unanswered questions. Mr. Foreman! I'd have to agree. Not that I think the granny did it, mind. Yes, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either. All together now, ladies and gents. So it's just 4. I wish, like, juror number 5 also changed his mind. We did it! Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo. So, as a result of the defense's summation examination, a number of jurors' leanings have changed. 2 jurors called guilty against 4 now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of this court is divided, and this trial will continue. Now then, Lord Van Zeeks, how does the prosecution wish to proceed? Like, is that your 5th chalice this trial? This trial is rapidly descending into a farce. He's gonna sip, then he's gonna throw it away. Like a court wine, the first few sips are bitter enough. I wish we could drink in the courtroom. I don't think that's allowed. Yep. But what follows is so repugnant. It's good for nothing save the gutter. If I may, Lord Van Zeeks. The defense has just put up forward credible alternative explanation for what happened. Give Naruhodo a beer. Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? The defense's argument is a joke to which I barely know how to respond, but let me start by insisting that you must all familiarize yourselves better with the relative positions of those places discussed. What do you mean by that? It should already be more than apparent that between the crime scene and the Garadeb household runs a rather wide street, Briar Road. Which means that the distance from the Garadeb's house to the scene is some, yes, 15 yards. Let me see, 15 yards, that's around 14 meters. 14 meters. Was like the meter already standardized by that time? And yes, as you ladies and gentlemen of the jury rightly noted as having portentous significance, the fourth book was found in the victim's clutches. She might have picked it up and then the knife came flying at her back as she was picking it up. Just saying. In other words, the smoldering book wantonly hurled by the lady of the house traveled some 15 yards to land on the opposite side of the robe, neatly between the collapsed victim's fingers and thumb. Is that your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend? And did the jackknife follow a near identical trajectory? Just a theory in the courtroom. And did the jackknife follow a near identical trajectory to plunge into the middle of the victim's back? This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Even those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots. Ah! There's nothing I can say to that. That prosecutor loves the sound of his own voice. Miss Susato, serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? How dare he? Maybe let's pick our battles here. My lord, might I be allowed to speak? As judicial assistant, you may speak for the defense, yes. The prosecution may consider the idea fantasy, but what the defense has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its leaning. And as such, the court has a duty to explore this alternative explanation as thoroughly as possible. To that end, juror number 4, Miss Joan Garadeb, must be called to testify and submit to a cross-examination. Saints alive, a cross-examination of a juror? Order! Well, this is highly irregular. It is unprecedented for a member of the jury to be summoned to the witness stand.
Objection!
And unnecessary. Lord Van Zeeks. There are already witnesses in the stand whose testimony the defense may further cross-examine. If my learned friend's farcical theory has any truth in it, then both a burning book and a jackknife must have flown through the sky before this couple's eyes. And we must assume they would be able to testify accordingly. What say you, witnesses? Yes, sir! Constable Roy Beat reporting for duty, sir! Well, good morning, officer. Sorry for dozing until now, sir! I haven't slept for a month on account of a villain who's appeared in my beat, sir! Oh, they are so heroic, these London bobbies. Patricia, my darling, I've been neglecting you, but no more. Oh, Rolly, my hero, you make me swoon. Very well, I hereby reject the defense's request. Oh, and order the witnesses in the stand to testify again. State forthwith before the court in any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of events. Yes, sir! Constable Beats report. This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb. Believe me, a London Bobby is good for his word. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Garadeb house are top hinge casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir. Well, this is quite startling. Top hinged casement windows? That detail was not in the police report, Constable. Ah, yes, sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy. Ahem. You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable. No, sir. I'm sorry, but... What exactly is a top hinge casement window? And you cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend. Of course, sorry. I found it, Mr. Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows in Mr. and Mrs. Garadib's room. Alright, I'll try. Okay, so that... So the window opens. The window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the house. Okay, that. But it's a top hinge casement window. It swings open along the upper edge. So it's like that. I'm glad you've rectified your ignorance. A casement window's prominent feature is its stay, a metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount. Okay, that's yeah. It like only limits how the windows are opened. I think I know some windows have that, like you can only open it up to a certain extent. Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or knife were to have been thrown through the open window, it would have clattered against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below. So like it hits that, then just falls. You see the problem then? Good, your education in Windows is complete. There was never any possibility of either the book or the knife traveling 15 yards over the road. Alright, so she might have picked up the book. But the question is the knife. Unless the window pane had been shattered, something we've discounted already. That can't be! Did you see that, Rolly? That young Japanese man just collapsed in agony. Oh yes, my darling, I saw it. I saw how he crumbled before me. Oh, Rolly, you're so strong. How is this happening? I haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and my argument's been destroyed. Counsel, if you could drag yourself upright again, court awaits your cross-examination. My lord. Oh, good, another desperate situation. Okay, this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett. Believe me, London's Bobby's good for
Hold it!
Alright, I guess we just press everything. How can you say that for certain? Very good question, sir. And the answer is this. It has the noble founding principles of the force written in it, as a reminder to us, to all us policemen of our sworn duty. He showed us that before, didn't he? Did he? I can't say I remember. To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. It's what the job's all about. And that's why I can't stand here today beside my long-suffering wife and tell you Bobby's good for his word. While rubbing my tired eyes admittedly. Sa! Oh, Rolly, you're so manly. Of course I am, my darling Patricia. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Oh, God, I just realized, frick, the pun. It's Pat Roll. Like patrol. God. None of this is what I meant. I meant, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with the Garadebs? I see, sa. You should have said so earlier, sa. Yes, well, so could you answer the question? Absolutely, sa. I will answer it to the fullest of my abilities, sa. There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's domestic dispute can't be related to this case. But before I get into that, sa, just one thing. Yes? I'd very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the great British institution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you'll take back some tales of us London Bobbies and how we upload our guiding principles. Wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here. So to that end, sa, I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal. But I must warn you, you won't be able to get it through it without shedding a few tears. Okay, that will now enter the court record. Thank you, I'll try. Constable Beats warrant card has been entered into the court record. Okay, court record. Let us investigate ye warrant card. Policeman will strive to preserve the peace within his allotted beat. A patrolling officer expected to walk 20 miles around this beat. Any crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. When a crime is discovered in his beat, a policeman must assist with the initial investigations and help detectives. Alright, so here's what I'm thinking. Preserve the peace. There was a dispute between the Garadebs. He might have heard it if the windows were open, so he might investigate. And second, assist with initial investigations. He should have been there when they were investigating the crime scene, maybe. Alright. I guess let's just press the other statements.
Hold it!
By which we mean they don't open fully, is that correct? Yes, They're just there to allow a bit of air through the house, you see, so they're restricted as to how much they open. And therefore, anything thrown out of the window from inside the room would simply strike the pane and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. There's where the objects would have fallen. Yes. Directly opposite the scene of the crime on the other side of the rather wide road. Would it have been so hard for somebody to mention this stop-inch casement before? Well, I have another question for you, Constable. And what would that be, Sa? How did you even know? Why would you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's house is furnished with? Well, Sa, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday. Why are you reacting?
Excuse me!
Do you have something to add, Mrs. Beat? Sorry. You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that? Oh, I was just remembering, that's all. We really were so lucky. Lucky? What do you mean? Well, of course, I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me. But we were just so lucky it didn't happen on Rolly's beat. It was so close, you see. Oh, I hadn't realized. Oh yes, that street Briar Road, that's the boundary between Rolly's beat and the next one. Is that right, my love? Constable Beat. Oh yes, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out with interviewing the occupants of the Garadeb household yesterday. Their house is on my beat, you see, Sa. That really was cutting it close then. Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Garadeb household is on your beat, does that mean that the pavement next to it as well? Outside Mr. Garadeb's house, yes. The pavement on that side of the road is part of my beat. I see. I was unaware of that. Just think, if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of Briar Road, we would never have been able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. But that's the life of a Bobby after all. Extraordinary people are Bobbies, tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners. Do you know what I think? I think it was the good Lord's way of rewarding my Rolly for all his hard work. Don't you think so, my darling? That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it. I think perhaps we should make sure we have that information officially on record. Leave it to me, Mr. Naruhodo. I'll take care of it immediately. Oh, the case file's information has been updated in court record. Pavement where the victim was found lies just outside Constable Beat's beat, the border of which runs down the middle of Briar Road. And now it's my turn, I think. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. Okay, I just want to check case file. Okay, young woman rendered unconscious, victim Olive Green, location pavement of Briar Road, east side. Reporting officer Rolly Beat. Yeah, that's the same. Alright.
Hold it!
But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already and it was dark. Oh, but Rolly and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky and looking for our lucky star. Sorry? The star that will guide us to eternal happiness. Can it guide you to answer the question? If a flaming book had cut across the sky in front of us, it would have lit up like a shooting star. And if I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Let Rolly be an inspector, I would have said, 3 times at least. Of course, what with the smog and everything, we couldn't see any stars. Okay, so he said smog, so he did see the smoke. In short, are you trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you? Yes, sir, that is correct, sir. As sure as the night sky in London is starless, sir. Certainly seems like they're telling the truth. And then we see the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. Alright, that statement contradicts what you said before, that you stayed at the scene and Rolly was the one who got help, right? Or informed. No, wait. No, alright. Shoot, I can't remember who went out to call for the other policeman.
Hold it!
Okay, yep, it was the girl. You said you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer. That's right, yes. If it had been on Rolly's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course. Yo, Annual, what's up? How are the cases today? No fish and chips yet. So apparently, Detective Fish and Chips isn't called yet. So yeah, no fish today. Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box and every beat. So Rolly told me the way. Only, I sort of got a little lost on the way. Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Ugh. So cheesy. Oh, police. I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes. But like I said, my Rolly was at the scene of the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed. I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty, sa. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sa. Nothing strange to report on that front, sa.
Hold it!
Nothing to report. That's correct, sa. I had my eyes wide open the entire time, never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. I can swear to that on the yard's honor, sa. Really, that seems a little strange. Beg your pardon, sa. Strange seems altogether regular to me. This burnt copy of The Lion's Pride was originally in the Garrett household. So the question remains, how did it find its way into the hands of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime that entire time? Aha, could it be a different copy, sa? One that just happened to be burnt as well? No. Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping at the book like that in her hand? As you can see from this photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder. Well, sa, this book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived at the scene. Are you sure? Is that so? There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. The two mysteries of how that knife ended up in her back and how that book ended up in her hand. That must be some common thread between them. Can I ask you something? Please, Mr. Lawyer, sir? Oh, yes, of course. What is it? You're so doubting us, aren't you? I can't tell. What? What's she doing? Please, just because I'm a woman, it doesn't make my testimony any less valuable. You might just see me as the wife of a policeman, but I'm a woman of my word, I am. I really don't remember ever suggesting that I doubted you. No excuses, I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, will you let me speak, won't you? Yes, Mrs. Beat, I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you so desire. Alright, there's gonna be a sixth statement. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the sage one. That was a very loud mutter. I heard that. That Japanese man thinks a policeman's wife's word counts for nothing, does he? Well, watch out, sir. I might let you get away with something like that, but my Rolly won't. Duly noted, Mrs. Beat. Please, I humbly ask you to continue. What could she possibly be about to say? I wonder. I know what I saw. My eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes.
Hold it!
Alright, why is your sense of direction off? Mrs. Beat, nobody's questioning what you've told us. I saw it, I did. That evening I saw it clearly. That little Eastern man with the whiskers and the funny curved back, slinking away from the scene. Ha. And I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying through the sky. All very clear. You also mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction. Oh yes, well, that's a little embarrassing, really. I'm always ending up at the wrong place when I've made arrangements to meet Rolly. He gets ever so cross. Why are you reacting now?
Excuse me!
Constable Beat, is there a problem? No, sir. No problem, sir. Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind, perhaps? Well, in a way, sir. Yes, sir. I was just remembering that same thing happened that evening, is all. Once STR to shake it level is at 4. Nice. You mean Mrs. Beat lost her way on the night of the incident? Excuse me. Well, you see, I sent her off to find a police box in the next beat over from mine. But she was gone a fair bit longer than what I was expecting. I thought she'd be back inside 10 minutes, but my darling was gone for a good 15. Oh, Rolly, you're such a tease. But the reason I was so long was because of the bouquet, you silly. The bouquet? Sorry, what bouquet are you talking about? Oh, it was a present for our wedding anniversary. Rolly's so romantic. He saved up for it with farthings and halfpennies he found in the gutter while doing his rounds. Yes, how romantic. I'd forgotten all about it until just now, had you, my darling? Ah! Oh, yes. But that was just between us. No talking about it to anyone else, darling. You have to promise... Really? Oh. What was that all about? Constable Beat looked very obviously troubled during that exchange. I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruhodo. But I'm quite sure of one thing. We have to ask Mrs. Beat about the bouquet. Mrs. Beat, this bouquet you just mentioned. I'd like you to add this details to your testimony if you please. Oh really? Yes, I'd love to. The prosecution is not amused. What happened was I dropped my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while.
Hold it!
Alright. You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime? Yes, that's right. Oh, I was so upset. When we ran over and saw it was a woman with a knife in her back, I was so shocked I dropped the bouquet roll he gave me. It was in the dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice it at first. And then you went to the police box to report it to the policeman whose beat it was on. Yes, and I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see. That's when I spotted my bouquet again, but the funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all. In case you need reminding, Mrs. B, the victim is not deceased. I was all flustered for a moment before I heard a voice calling me from the other side of the road. Other side of the road? That's right, Silmy, I'd gone over the wrong side of the street. Although I'm going to blame the bouquet this time, I can't think how it got there really, I can't. So the bouquet somehow moved from one side of Briar Road to the opposite. Curious indeed. Isn't it? But the worst of it is, I forgot to pick the bouquet up again when we left the scene. That beautiful rose roll he bought me with that change from the gutter he spent so long collecting. By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this sorry solitary rose? Oh, yes, that's it. That's the bouquet roll he bought me for our anniversary, with the old bits of change he found in the gutter. Maybe just call it a rose. Tell us, Lord Van Seeks, where did you come by the flower? According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Garideb household. In front of the Garideb's house. Although it wasn't noticed until the morning as they lay where the street lamps cast no light. It was believed to be of no relevance to the case since it was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare. Oh, thank you, sir, thank you. Could I have it back now, please? No, I think for good measure, this rose should be added to the court record as evidence. Oh. Anniversary bouquet, aka rose, has been entered to the court record. But it's a symbol for love. I want it back after the trial, do you hear me? I want it back. Good grief, rest assured that I shall do my very best not to forget, Mrs. B. Alright, Rose. Do you have any evidence of any sort? Very stylish paper the flower's wrapped in, isn't it? It's just an old newspaper, Mr. Naruhodo. Suppose it's because I'm not used to seeing English prints. Look so exotic to me. I see. Something wrong? Oh no. I was just thinking that if you wrapped a stone-baked sweet potato in English newspaper, it might look like some sort of fancy cake. Ah, Susanto-san, you do love your cakes. An English rose. It's such a beautiful flower. Never seen one before. Do you not take an interest in flowers, Mr. Naruhodo? I wouldn't say that exactly, but I do know 3 types at least. Gosh, 3, yes. Plum blossom, peach blossom, and cherry blossom. Perhaps you should consider branching out. Learning some that aren't fruit tree based, for example. I think that's just it. It's just the newspaper, the rose, the handle. Okay, yep, it's just it. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, what do you make of all this? The whole idea of an invisible attacker has been troubling me all along. But I believe I'm starting to get a picture of what really happened here now. The 4th book that had no business being at the scene of the crime made me sure that Mrs. Garida was hiding something from us, but it's becoming increasingly clear that someone else had been hiding something from us as well. I think I may already be armed with everything I need to strike a decisive blow. This time, it's going to expose the whole truth about this mysterious affair. This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb. Alright. Save scum. Okay, what's this? Top floor or top hinge casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out the window, would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go and help fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. What happened was I dropped my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for a moment. Nothing strange to report on that front. Okay. So you're saying that the rose was found... The rose was found in front of the Garadebs. Okay, the weird thing is the rose. So they said that the rose was found in front of the Garadeb household. And they said it was found near the body.
Objection!
Oh, damn it.
Hold it!
Ah, damn it. I should have presented the rose here. Because didn't take off the crime scene, so she should have seen the rose.
Objection!
Okay. Yep, should have presented the rose here. You claim Constable Beat there was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes you were guarding the scene, but that cannot be, because the wife dropped the rose. What do you mean to say? In your testimony just now, Mrs. Beat, you explained to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to that beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby.
Objection.
Yes, on the opposite side of Briar Road to where the victim was attacked. But considering the size of that meager bouquet, if a single sorry bloom can be so described, no doubt it was blown in the wind across the street back into the gutter where it belongs. Meager?
Objection!
But if that were the case, why did Constable Beat not testify to the fact? No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. Constable Beat swore to that on Scotland Yard's honor. But the bouquet belonged to me, it has nothing to do with the case. That's why Rolly didn't mention it, I'm sure. No, because sadly, it's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way around. What are you talking about? Think about it. Besides Mrs. Beat's bouquet, there's Mr. Garadib's book. Mr. Garadib's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out the window by his wife. Oh, wait. Would have struck the pane of the casement window and landed here on the west side of the street. The stabbing happened on that side. And yet, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road. Okay, probably the stabbing happened on that side, the body was moved. So that officer guy wouldn't have to do it on his watch. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Mrs. Beat's bouquet should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime on the east side of the street. But in fact, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road in front of Mr. and Mrs. Garadib's house. There's no logical explanation for those things, unless somebody deliberately moved them. I didn't realize they were both sharing the same scarf. Anyway, what are you trying to say? The way you're talking, it sounds like you think my Rolly's done something wrong. Don't you listen to a word that scrawny lawyer says. Wittering on about books and bouquets, why should we care? It's nitpicking, that's what it is. Oh god, Mrs. Garadib's come round. You might call it nitpicking, Mrs. Garadib, but deliberately meddling with the scene of a crime is a criminal offense. It's called, tampering, Mr. Naruhodo. But the person responsible for this tampering cannot admit to it, for a very subtle but compelling reason. Tampering? You've barely heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend, who would possibly have had cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Yes, there is someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All the evidence and the testimony points to that one particular person. Shoot, is it... It's either the policeman or... Mrs. Garadib. What are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime? Okay, the question is, did Mrs. Garadib go down? Argument could have been over. She went down to fetch the book. Rolly because it was on his jurisdiction, but he didn't want to investigate it. I think the only evidence I have is Rolly because of the map. And why did the policeman's book go into evidence? Because if it was Garadib, Mrs. Garadib, there's no evidence. Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Rolly Beat, it was you. What? A policeman? A member of Scotland Yard? What nonsense. Why would my Rolly do something like that? There's no one straighter than my husband. No Bobby works more tirelessly for the people of London. Mrs. Beat, you said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to a nearby police box to fetch the officer on duty. The 15 minutes that you were absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it. You're making it up. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about that Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him. He did it. If that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him do it. Oh. And forgive me for pointing it out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, it was after the defendant had fled the scene. Ah, well.
Objection!
First, you make accusations about the landlord and his wife, and now you incriminate the policeman as well. But your accusations lack one very important thing. Evidence. You claim the crime scene was tampered with. But there's only one reason anyone would commit such a reckless crime, to hide something. That's right, he's right. But my husband and I just happened to be there, that's all. So why would he have anything to hide? It doesn't make sense. You have offered no motive for this alleged tampering. And until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats. It's the handbook. Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. That's the key to this entire affair. Mr. Naruhodo, have you managed to solve this mystery? Counsel, you have made a very serious accusation against London police officer. Alright, we'll strive to preserve peace within his allotted beat, so it's page 1. Any crimes... Okay, it's number 2. Any crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations. Alright. So, if the body was found on Rolly Beat's jurisdiction, he should be in charge of it. The body was moved to the opposite side of the road, which was not his jurisdiction, so it was passed on to another officer. That's why he asked his wife to go call another police officer. That's my theory. If you are mistaken, I'm sure I need not point out that your reputation as a lawyer will be irrevocably damaged. With that stark warning in mind, you will now explain to court the motive for this alleged tampering. Yes, my lord. Face slap. Constable Beat's motive for tampering with the crime scene was to hide. Ah, shoot. Where the victim fell. Where the victim fell to the ground. That is what this Bobby had to cover up at all costs. What? Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Road, we saw it happen, remember? It was right here, as if anyone didn't already know. That's certainly what everybody has been led to believe. But in fact, this isn't where the victim was stabbed at all. What? I'm beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, counsel. If that's your assertion, then the court is dying to know, my Nipponese friend. Where are you proposing that the crime actually took place that evening? It's here.
Take that!
But that's on the opposite side of the road. I don't understand. On the evening in question, Mr. Garadeb's book fell directly down from the open window above. And your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself. Good gracious!
Objection!
Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. But these witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place. That's right, I saw it with my own eyes. It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was typical London fog on the ground. When you saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid, that was actually on the west side of Briar Road. No, that's not true. It can't have been. Constable Beat then arranged for you to be absent for a while by sending you for help. And during the 15th, yep, he moved the body. He transplanted the crime scene. He moved all the things shown in this print, the victim herself, the 4 books. He moved everything, in fact, to the pavement on the east side of Briar Road. Extraordinary. But the constable overlooked one thing. What did he overlook? The bouquet, I presume? Exactly. The prosecution told the court just a few minutes ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet. Lord Van Ziek said it wasn't noticed until the morning as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. Yes, it couldn't be seen in the dark, obviously. Which is why it was only the bouquet that was found in its original position on the pavement on the west side of Briar Road. And that is the defense's theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond? Constable Rolly Beat. Breakdown. It's gonna... yes, it was me all along. Well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to nod off again, but I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important? Oh, Rolly. Isn't it true, is it? What? It isn't true, is it? That what that lawyer said is all lies, isn't it? I know it is because you're the most upstanding, righteous man I know. I had a dream, a terrible dream. All the things I did that night. Everything come out. Everything exposed. Only it seems it wasn't a dream at all. Good golly! So yep, he did it. Order! What on earth is the meaning of all of this? Oh, Rolly, why? Why would you do something like this? Moving a corpse is a criminal offense, isn't it? The victim's not dead yet. Wishing the victim dead should be one too. Yup. Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London Down. I can't say, sir. What? I really am ever so sorry about all this. For damaging the Yard's reputation, for everything. Is he covering up for a major, like, crime network? I have a possible explanation. Oh, now he's gonna present the rulebook. For why on that particular evening, Constable Beat felt compelled to move the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason. How could you possibly know? You, a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman. And yet, Lord Van Ziek said, it is this foreigner who has uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far. I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear this extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defense, if you please. Yes, my lord. Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence. Yep, it's the rule. It's the policeman's rulebook. Once, my lord. England, Japan, it makes no difference where you come from. Human emotions are the same. And I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's action. What gives away the motive for Constable Beat's unthinkable actions? The warrant card.
Take that!
I realize that I am a foreigner in this land and I have only just arrived from Japan, which is why all this information about London's so-called bobbies is completely new to me. I've learned that, though honorable, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world, for example. Keeping the peace, looking after the citizens on this beat in all kinds of ways. There's no doubt that the young Bobby is charged with a great deal to do each day, certainly. But, for Constable Beat, the day in question was special. On account of this bouquet, my lord. Oh yes, it was our very first wedding anniversary. Constable Beat had worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was so looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal. When he and Mrs. Beat stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road. When he saw that shadowy figure through the fog collapse on the pavement ahead of them, what must have gone through the man's mind? But just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. He didn't want to do the work. This is the warrant card that Constable Beat offered to Len earlier. Inside, among the rules for patrolling policemen, it says, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Oh god, I was correct! Constable Beat. Is that or is that not the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day? Yes. Ah, shoot. Everything you said, it's alright. So that's it. It was all to do with the boundary of your beat. Oh. Exactly. To summarize, the incident actually occurred on Constable's beat. Constable, do you realize the gravity of what you have done? It was the first time since I became a copper that I'd ever cursed God. Stay close to me, Pat. The criminal could still be lurking somewhere. As we ran over to the scene, I had every intention of doing my duty as a police officer. We've got to report this to the station as quickly as possible. But then it dawned on me. I realized where we were, where the victim was lying, and what that meant for me. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Oh, why here? Why did this have to happen here? And why tonight of all nights? Why? That's why he asked his wife to call another policeman and then he moved the body. It's a copper's job to guide the scene of the crime, so I told Pat she'd have to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty there. It was then when I opened my mouth to speak. It just came out. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is the next beat to mine, Pat. So you'll have to go to the police box that covers it. Turn along Meerschaum Street and then... ... Oh. Breakdown. I'm so sorry. So sorry. Oh, Constable. I just wanted, just that one night, to take my Patricia out for dinner. Oh, Rolly. Just that one night. You knew that if the incident was on your beat, your evening of celebration would be ruined. And so you decided to move the entire crime scene outside your jurisdiction. Just across the street to the east pavement of Briar Road, which falls under the neighboring beat's care. You see, I thought, well, I was sure the victim was dead, you see. I beg your pardon. Oh, of course you did. Otherwise, my Rolly would never have left the poor woman on the freezing cold pavement. Ah, I see your meaning now. But God got me back for my sins, didn't he? That's why I missed the rose I bought for Pat. Oh no, Rolly, that was all my fault. I should never have dropped it in such a dark place. I'm so sorry, Rolly. And can you tell us, Constable? How many books did you move from one side of the road to the other in total? Oh, 4 it was, yes, definitely 4. 3 of them dropped by Mr. Natsume, and the 4th being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Garib household, of course. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand when all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean? Oh well, Sa, that's because that's how I found it. How you found it? What do you mean? When you first ran over the scene, the victim was already holding the book. Right, so she might have picked it up when it fell. When I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. You're sure it was this book, The Lion's Pride, that the victim was holding? Yes, no doubt about it. Interesting. The 4th book information has been updated in the court record. Book entitled Lion's Pride was in the victim's hand when Mrs. Beat ran over to see what had happened. I thought it was an open and shut case at the time, you see. There were only the 2 people at the scene, and Pat and me both saw it happen. However, which way you looked at it, it had to be the fellow who ran off who'd done it, I thought. I couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make a jot of a difference. I suppose this is it for me now. I've had it. My lord. Yes, Lord Van Zeeks. I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses. Constable, you may withdraw. Yes, sir. Mr. Prosecutor, sir. What will become of my Rolly? What will happen to him? For now, you are free to go home. The police will contact you in due course. Please, don't punish my husband. This is all my fault. It's because I'm always moaning at him for coming home late. Leave it now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired. Alright then, my love. One last thing, Constable. Let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, however insignificant it may seem to you. Yes, sir. Carve that lesson in your mind. Oh my god. Don't tell me we're gonna be seeing more of this officer in the future. And never again make the same mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime. Never again, sir. You mean to say... Leave. Now, this trial is not yet over. Sa. Oh, do we now get to interview the Garadebs? Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. Whoever thought a third party transplanting the entire scene of a crime like that? Indeed, my lord. Nevertheless, there are some immutable facts here, principally. That the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume, is the only person who could possibly have committed this crime. No, I disagree. Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Another person who could be responsible for the knife in the victim's back. Forgive me for being presumptuous, but I believe the prosecution is probably well aware of this possibility already. Lord Van Zeeks, is this true? Very well. Name the person if you will, and if further investigation is warranted. The prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing. You will name this other person who could have perpetrated this crime. So the only person left here is Joan. Because her husband has a knee injury, so he can't go down. Presumably. Is it Joan though? Well, I have no other choice. These are my only 2 options. Did we interview the neighbor? I don't think the neighbor was here. Yeah, we didn't see like Mr. Thespian and the other guy, they were just there. So, you know what? This is the only person these are the only two people I can think of. So let's go with Joan first. The defense would once again like to request the cross-examination of a new witness, my lord. Once again, my assistant made the same request earlier. In order to finally reveal the truth about this case, it's imperative we cross-examine juror member number 4, Mrs. Joan Garadeb. Oh dear me. That request has already been denied. But the situation is very different now. Mrs. Garadeb, answer me this. What do you want now, you little toad? At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garadeb. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited, and to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened the window that looks out over Briar Road. Well, what of it? You threw this book at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the open top-hinge casement window, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way to what we now know to be the true scene of the incident. Yes, and as I said, what of it? During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just books, but anything you could lay your hands on. Okay, so my theory of like the book flying out, the lady picking it up, and then the knife flying out and accidentally landing on the back. Oh my god, if that was true. This case is so funny. So let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Garadeb. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back, have you really never laid eyes on it before? I don't recall it. Seriously. Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? And anyway, the man over there in all that regalia said members of the jury needed testify, didn't he? Conveniently, yes. No, I have no recollection of saying that at all. Number 4. Make no mistake, you jurors are not special in any way. You are not immune to the judicial process. If you know something about this knife, madam, let the truth come out. But that's just a common or garden knife. It could have come from anywhere. We have several like that at home. If one went missing, how could you expect me to know? What's that? Are you joking? What are you saying, please, Mrs. Garadeb? Now you listen to me. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought that I'd injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it. Oh, the poor woman. So yes, I want evidence. I want to see hard evidence if you're going to insist on this being my fault. Okay. There is... Okay, I remember the tip of this was missing, right? Yep, the tip was missing. Yeah, the tip was missing. So 2 things. Jeez, why is this hard to like rotate? Yeah, wonder what could have happened to it. Yes. You don't think it could still be lodged into the victim? Oh dear, I do hope not. You're going to have to prove me that I threw that knife if that's what you think. Come along now, chop chop, do your worst. Well, Yeah, the knife's the only thing I can think of. If I had evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already. Then take the stand, juror. The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman. Thank you, Lord Van Zeeks. I'm going to have to testify? Juror number 4. As I'm sure you will appreciate, having observed it with your own eyes today, witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed. Truths of which the witnesses themselves may not even have been aware. Oh, dearie me. So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Gardem. And mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. Do you concur, counsels? Certainly, my lord. Oh, yes, that's what I'm hoping for, my lord. Juror will testify. More testimonies. This is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. I'm here in the Old Bailey and I'm a lawyer. Witness, state your name and occupation. Oh, yes. My name is Joan Garadeb. And I'm a juror and such like. It sounds like even she doesn't know if she's a housewife or a maid or what anymore. The court has decided your testimony is required in order to clarify matters in this case. Do you understand, madam? Yes, my lord. You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth. Oh, dearie me. Chin up, Joni. Nothing to worry about now. It's John! I didn't know you were here, John. Are they both gonna testify? Wasn't only you in the room that day, old thing, was it? Rather think I ought to testify as well, don't you? But what about your knee, dear? Don't you worry about that. I hardly notice it. She's not pouring hot tea on his knee anymore anyway. I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade to face disciplinary action alone. And he doesn't have the face slap anymore. Oh, John. I presume you're Mr. John Garadeb. Yes, sir. Former second lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. Wow, that is a mouthful. Seen my fair share of action and now living in the quiet life, as it were. Quiet life where you're not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse in the day in question. Well, yes, I am quiet. I believe this may represent a first in the proud history of the British court. Calling a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear your testimony now, juror number 4, and that of your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question. Sir, at once. The Battle of Garadeb. Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now. Wasn't that the bookmark? Knocked the candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out though, and got the window open. Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him. Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I'd notice if one or two went missing, I'm afraid. If that bally thing in the victim's back really was one of ours, you'll have a job proving it, I think. It sounds as though it was quite the battlefield in your household that evening. Although an entirely one-sided assault, it seems. The enemy caught us on the hop, sir. Had no choice but to dig in and take defensive measures. To be honest, if the enemy had kept shelling us for another minute, we'd had been toast. Of course, a veteran such as myself, is only too aware that on every battlefield you're just a gnat's whisker from death at any moment. Are we still talking about the marital quarrel over here? Well, I must say I'm dubious this testimony will shed any light on the origins of this jackknife. Yo, Tilted, what's up? Gonna be lurking. Hope you have a good stream. No worries. Thank you for dropping by. Thanks for the lurk. Really do appreciate it. Yep, we're hopefully gonna finish this case tonight. We'll see. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified already. This may be a dead end. Van Zieks may well be right. I just need to press the witnesses, right? Whatever the chances, we only have this last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Mr. Narodo. Everything's a last cross-examination. Soon after we find a loophole, there's gonna be a new set of testimonies and we have to cross-examine that as well. Very well, counsel. Begin your cross-examination. Today referring to the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish.
Hold it!
The reason is what you told us yesterday, I believe. Yes, that's right. If I remember correctly, it all started because of a note that was stuck into the pages of a book belonging to Mr. Garadeb. A rather passionate note, in fact. But Mrs. Garadeb found the note discovering her husband's little secret, and she gave him a mighty number of slaps across the face for it too. What a sordid state of affairs. Hell on earth. I say, when a chap says he can't recall such things, it's common decency not to drag it all up. And besides, half of it was wide of the mark anyway. A likely story. These waters run very deep. And what transpired next after these multiple blows to the face? Knocked the candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out though, and got the window open. And the fire also spread to some items of furniture, didn't it? The bookcase, my armchair, anything of mine really. Just so happens there was some bath water around that evening, so I sloshed that about to put it out. Bath water? A most precarious situation to put yourself in. Ours is a 3-story townhouse on the west side of the street where the water main isn't connected yet. Have to draw water from a public water pump during the day if you need any, you see. The lodgers are always moaning that they can't get any water at night. Although that little mustached Japanese man buys water in bottles, I believe. Wow, there was bottled water at that time. The defendant, Mr. Natsume, you mean? Yes, he receives a stipend for his studies, you know, from his home country. Can you imagine? Being able to brew a pot of tea at all hours, he's obviously very well off. Have you actually seen the state of the man? I believe he uses all his income to buy books. Well, anyway, the point is, I was able to douse the fire with water, fortunately enough. Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him. Even though the room was on fire, as far as I was concerned at that time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw. That is most certainly not true for Susato takedown. How did you know I was thinking of that? So please cast your mind back and try to remember. Was a knife among the items that you threw at your husband that day? In all honesty, I don't recall. But I feel I must point out that I am no monster. Let me see. Some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel, and a sponge. A napkin.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, sir? It's also the book. Mr. Garadeb. Hey, don't shoot. Sorry. I beg your pardon. Did your wife's remark now just bring something to mind? Nothing of any significance, no. Just that the barrage of projectiles the old thing launched in my direction was somewhat more solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and the fire poker I seem to recall. Ouch. And the woman's aim is uncanny she landed and directed... Oh, now she's pouring directly to the pipe. Good grief, woman. We're not at home now. This is a court of law. Oh, dearie me, but ever so sorry, dear. What's she even doing with a teapot in here? Oh, she's gonna set a precedent that a bellboy's gonna bring a tea set 100 years later. Honestly, John, I would never have thrown such things at you, obviously. Well, take a look at this then. How do you suppose that happened, Your pipe, sir? Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did, yes. And when I went to pick out the thing up, it was broken in two. I'd like to see a sponge do that sort of damage. I see, your pipe was broken. It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Anyway, I've managed to bandage the thing up for now. Ha, you're one to exaggerate, aren't you, dear? I wonder what we should make of this account. Obviously, it's important. The defense believes Mr. Garadeb's remarks just now to be of great significance.
Objection!
This war veteran's words only tells us one thing. Betray a fiery wife and pipes as well as hearts may be broken. Sentimental wisdom perhaps, but hardly worthy of adding to the formal testimony. Indeed, common sense one might say. Might one? In that case, would you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir? Oh, this is interesting. Well, I don't see why not. Oh, dearie me, there you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with the young lady. Very well, the court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence. Okay, why is the pipe all of a sudden evidence? I hope I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo. I was just feeling rather disappointed for you that your request was turned down. Oh no, it's fine. Okay, let's examine the pipe. Oh, whoa, what is this? Holy shit. Is this the blade tip? The knife was theirs. Oh, just something just twinkled inside the chamber of the pipe. Yes, I saw it. Something stuck in there, I think. Let's turn it over and give it a shake. What's this? It's a tiny fragment of metal. It looks like the tip of a blade. Yep, that's the blade tip. Okay, so the knife is theirs. This small piece of metal looks like it might be the tip of a knife blade. Alright. It looks to be in sorry state with that bandage around it, doesn't it? For some reason, it feels slightly ominous to me, like it's trying to shout out a warning. Probably because it's the same blue as Mr. Garadeb's dressing gown. I suppose it must have considerable sentimental to Garadeb, given that he's gone to the trouble of repairing it like this. Either that or he can't afford to replace it. There's a small nick out of the bowl here. Look. It appears to have been made relatively recently. And see how there are little scrapes and dents all over it? It's clearly a well-loved pipe. Yes, you're right. It seems to me recently that being well-loved goes hand in hand with getting some battle scars. This particular nick is catching my eye though, because it's clearly new. Oh. Alright. Okay. Thanks to Susato-san, we have some new evidence to work with. Well, thank you for that. Rebuttal, Mr. Garadeb. Now, if you could return to the crux of the matter. What can you tell the court about the knife used to attack the victim? Okay, I have to present here the metal tip. Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say if I notice if one or two went missing, I'm afraid. Alright, I just want to press both statements, then we'll present the evidence. Nothing to say, really. Rather partial to a spot of carving, you see, pipes and whatnot, fishing tackle, you know, the sort of thing. It's a passion we both share. I like to carve little wooden trinkets too, and then there's my leatherwork. Sorry to say we're always losing knives about the place, and we have dozens of the thing. They sell them at the market sometimes, 20 for the price of 19. Needless to say, I snap them up. John prefers to use 2 knives at meal times too, instead of a knife and a fork. Okay. Now, Joan, we don't want people thinking I'm some... Wah! Here we go again with the scaldings. Why are they being so evasive? I imagine it's because they don't want to believe it. They can't bear the thought that it might have been one of their knives that injured the victim. Which is entirely understandable, of course, but still. Go on. Witnesses? Sir. If that bally thing in the victim's back really was one of her knives, you'll have a job proving it, I think.
Hold it!
So you have no intention of admitting it was your knife, unless we can produce proof. Even though there is no other credible possibility if Mr. Natsume is innocent.
Objection!
You forget, my Nipponese friend, that it has yet to be established that the accused is not responsible for the attack. As if I could forget. If there was some way to know who handled the knife. Fingerprint test! But I suppose wizardry like that is just a dream. Perhaps you're thinking of fingerprinting, Mr. Naruhodo. What? You mean it's not a dream? That sort of wizardry really exists? Whenever people touch anything, they leave behind a unique pattern from their skin, or so they say. But I can't see anything. There are already countries in the world where these so-called fingerprints can be used as evidence. Lord Strongheart is currently discussing the matter at the Ministry of Justice. Yes, I believe you are rapidly approaching an era of scientific methods of investigation. But now there's still no fingerprinting. For now, we shall have to find an alternative method. Okay. That this knife found in the victim's back was originally in Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's house. If only I could transplant this whole incident to several years in the future. That's the extent of their testimony, is it? What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I think we've heard all of this before, to be honest. I can't say I'm particularly confident that we'll be able to prove anything new from this testimony. But in this cross-examination, it's absolutely essential that we establish how this knife came to be at the scene of the incident. Yes, I know. I'm sure both of them must be feeling very worried. Worried that it was in fact a knife belonging to one of them that caused the victim's injury. If you could find even a tiny shred of evidence to support that theory, it would clinch this trial for us. It would explain everything. Yes, it would. So for Saseki-san's sake, we must. We must find that last crucial piece of evidence. Yup, we found it. It's the knife tip. Ah! Damn. I over-clicked. Okay, that should be in the last statement. Okay, if that bally thing is the victim's back, we must present the knife tip.
Objection!
Mr. Garadeb, could I ask you to take a good look at this, please? You can ask, but I can't see a bally thing. You can't? Used to call me Dead-Eyed Deb back in the regiment, of course. But that was gone. But that was some time ago now. Even when I'm trying to enjoy a large print book by the fire these days, I struggle to tell a B from a D and a P from a Q, to be honest. Oh, he does. Dear me, it's rather wearing being asked about every other letter and every other word. You must D very dissy. What is that? A tiny scrap of metal? Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear at first to be just a tiny scrap is in fact a crucial piece of evidence. Interesting. And where did the defense come by this evidence? It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Garadeb's pipe. My pipe, you say? By Jove, I wonder how that got there. And what precisely does this fragment of metal signify, Counsel? Are you suggesting that it's in some way related to the matter of stabbing on Briar Road? I am. What? When put together with another piece of evidence already in the court record, yep, it's the knife. It's the knife tip. I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of this case, my lord. Oh my god, she's on a crate. You appear rather confident in that extraordinary statement, counsel. Very well then, present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence when paired with this fragment of metal allegedly reveals the truth of this entire case? It's the knife.
Take that!
This is the knife that was found in the victim's back. If you look closely, you will see that there is a small piece at the tip of the blade that is missing. A common issue with the inferior blade sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals who use them regularly leave the tips lodged in their victims' bones. And what of this particular knife? No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate, now languishing somewhere near the spine of the victim.
Objection!
No, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is the very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Garadeb's pipe. Oh, good grief, Lord Van Zeeks. His heart. I don't believe it. The knife from the crime scene and this fragment of metal are a perfect match. Good golly gosh. I just realized that his robes have a hole at the back, which was probably burned by the fire. Order! Is this some sort of Eastern sorcery? This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle. A miracle? So Van Zeeks has figured it out, has he? Counsel, explain this extraordinary coincidence at once. Yes, my lord. The crucial point we have to ask ourselves here is when did the fragment of metal find its way inside Mr. Garadeb's pipe? Something that was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimony. Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles she did. It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid, which is the knife. Oh dearie me. During the argument between these two that occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Garadeb flung this knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Garadeb instead, striking the pipe in his hand at the time. Oh my god, is my theory like the victim picked up the book. As she was picking it up, the knife fell on her back. Wow. Which caused the tip to break off, of course. Good lord, yes. And that is when the tiny tip of the blade found its way inside Mr. Garadeb's pipe. The chances of that are 1,000,000 to 1. And yet, there's no other credible explanation for how the tip of the blade ended up in your pipe. Then, after losing its tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew out of the open window. In short, this knife, which fell from the window of the Garadeb's house, is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back on the street below. Oh gosh, oh dear, oh no!
Objection!
What's the proof? A full-bodied theory, I'll give you that. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points plausibly arranged to create an almost passable vintage. Allow me to toast my learned friend's characteristically Nipponese approach to bottling his argument. Sorry? But after all, it's just a theory. The bottle, I fear, is corked. Because you see, it's spoiled by an insurmountable inconsistency. An insurmountable what? Lord Van Zeeks, explain yourself. What is this inconsistency you claim to have identified? An inconsistency of the simplest nature, my lord. The victim was found with the knife planted in the middle of her back. Yes, in her That's right, you silly little man. Oh, and suddenly, like, the slap went away. Now, Joan, what are you getting so excited about? Let us consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking along the pavement before being stabbed in the back and falling to the ground. If the knife that struck her had fallen from above, there's no possible way it could have planted itself into the victim's back. She was picking up the book. She was like bent down and trying to pick up the book. Quite right, you see, that's exactly right. If the knife had fallen on her from above, it would have struck her on the top of her head. Well, he's lost for words. Look, I knew it. I never liked this theory in the first place. I don't know, though, what really did happen. It would appear the defense had made a rather spectacular blunder. If a theory has even one inconsistency, it cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is history. She could have picked up the book. We were so close I could see the truth. I was so sure we were on the right track. But now the way has been blocked completely. One simple inconsistency. Or in other words, we simply need to eliminate that one inconsistency and the theory will stand. Mr. Sato, you mustn't worry. I realized that that word isn't mustn't, it's must-ent. Mr. Narodo. You were just caught off guard, that's all, and your mind went blank. But if the path you were on is indeed correct, then a way will present itself. The key to this is in the court record. It's the book. It was in the book. She bent over to pick it up. Since you have nothing to say, my Nipponese friend, well, your silence speaks volumes. A tacit acceptance that your theory is fatally flawed.
Objection!
This inconsistency doesn't mean I was on the wrong track. It means that I need to sharpen my mind and dig deeper for the truth. It's a test. Yes. The knife fell on the victim from above. There's no way that it could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that is. What are you implying? Counsel. There's a piece of evidence in the court record that can explain this inconsistency. That can explain how the knife that fell from above could have pierced the victim's back. We already have the answer. Goodness. Utter madness. Surely this must be the last time. Counsel, present the evidence of which you speak. It's the book. It's the book. If I can successfully make sense of this, the truth will be laid bare at last. The evidence that explains how the falling knife became lodged in the victim's back is... It's the book. It was on the pavement. The victim was walking. She bent down to pick it over. That's why it's on her hand.
Take that!
This, the fourth book found at the scene. This is the final piece of evidence the defense will present. The burnt book? Is that not Mr. Garadev's book? Yes, and to understand its significance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. This photographic print clearly shows the book in question, and the victim holding it in her hand. But as we all now know, it was the police constable that put the book between her fingers like that. Quite so, as part of his wholesale transplanting of the crime scene to the opposite side of the road. That's true, however, as part of his testimony, Constable Mead made an extremely enlightening statement on that point. What made you place that book in the victim's hand? Oh well, that's because that's how I found it. When he first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. Yeah, she picked it up. In other words, the victim had already picked the book up. And clearly that must have been before she suffered the knife wound. Well, I should say so. After being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she'd have been doing much of anything. So the question becomes, why did the victim have that book in her hand? By jingo! I think I'm beginning to see what may have happened now. Oh dearie me. We know that the book fell from the top floor of the Garrideb household onto the pavement below, at precisely the moment that the victim was walking past. Yes, and exactly at that moment, the young woman was walking along the street in the light fog, when all of a sudden, a book fell right in front of her. The book I threw? Yes, Mrs. Garrideb, and what do you think the woman did? What would you do if you were walking along and suddenly a book landed in front of you on the pavement? I don't know, ignore it? I really can't imagine it. But I suppose she might have reached down and picked the book up. Yes, that is exactly what the woman in fact did. She picked up the book. Oh heavens. And when the woman reached down to pick the fallen book up, what position would her back have been in? That's right, facing the sky completely and utterly defenseless. Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book, the knife stabbed her. Oh my god, my theory is right. The next object fell from the room above the knife, straight into the middle of her back. And at that same time, walking by chance directly behind Miss Green, was the defendant, Mr. Nososeki Natsume. Well, I never. It appeared to Mr. Natsume that the woman simply collapsed on the floor. In the dark and the fog, he didn't see the knife falling on her from above. And from the other direction, the constable and his wife saw no one but the victim and her apparent attacker. So there never was a real culprit to run from the scene in the first place. No, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. A series of unfortunate events. And that is the real truth behind this case. Objection! No objection? Well, Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb, breakdown. The very first time you showed me that knife, I had my suspicions. I wondered if perhaps it might have been something like that. There, old bean. Poor Mrs. Garrideb. Of course, I never meant for anything of the sort to happen, but it was all my fault, wasn't it? I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book, and I threw the knife as well. John dear, it's alright, I know. I'm ever so sorry. Truly. I'm sorry. Oh god, his niece. Lord Van Zeeks, what news of Mrs. Garrideb? She's been taken to the infirmary. It would appear that today's events had left her in an especially flustered state. However, I believe she will recover in due course. There's no cause for concern. Yes, unbeknownst to themselves, they caused what could easily have been a terrible tragedy. They shall have to prepare themselves for the consequences of their actions. There is some good news, however, my lord. I've just had word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily and the doctor believes she will regain consciousness soon. It's strange, we've been talking about the victim all this time, but we've never once met her. How wonderful, the woman is out of danger it seems. Yes, that is good news. So, Mr. Soseki Natsume, Yes. On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture and have been repaid with immeasurable unkindness. Please accept our heartfelt apologies. He's gonna come up with an alliteration. No, it is me who should be begging your pardon. Oh, no alliteration. Oh, Mr. Natsume. That evening when the young woman just collapsed on the pavement before my eyes, I jumped to the wrong conclusion again in my confusion. What conclusion, sir? I was sure that the woman was dead. Yes, Constable Beat said the same thing, didn't he? He thought she had been killed too. I suppose she must have looked completely lifeless. It's been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain now, but I still can't get used to life here. I can't relax. I'm sure there are evil spirits lurking in the fog. Like they're haunting me. Poor Soseki-san. His imagination really has got the better of him. Yes, poor man. So when it happened, I thought the young woman had been taken by the fog spirits. I should never have dropped my books like that and run away. I should have called help for a doctor, for the police. Instead, I've managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between our two empires. And for that, I am truly sorry. Oh, now Mr. Garadeb isn't like the juror's seat. One could indeed say that that some sort of mischievous spirit has been at work here, I think. One that created a chain of unfortunate mishaps. We were befooled by the spirit and led to false conclusions. But thanks to Lord Van Zieks and our young lawyer here from the east, that chain has now been broken and the spirit exorcised. I heartily commend you both. Oh. Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, yes, my lord. In concluding this trial, I must ask one last time for your decisions regarding the defendant's culpability. Are you ready to present your findings to the court? As the foreman of this jury, I can assure you we've reached a fair and just conclusion. I do declare the truth can be extremely cruel at times. Well, I didn't suspect the woman next to me, that's for sure. Sitting in for the old bean while she's out of action, you know, but I know what her decision will be. Is that even possible in the jury system? Does this mean I'll finally be able to get out of here and start work? Well, it's about time. I say, I'll have a corker of a story to tell the grandchildren when I get home, won't I? Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby demand your final decisions. Mr. Foreman.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Very well, Mr. Soseki Natsume. I hereby pronounce you not guilty. And fireworks! Fireworks in the courtroom, of course. And finally, Mr. Natsume. Oh wait, there's more? Yes, Lord, sir. And the room burns down. Yep. You're now a free man once more. It is my hope that you will continue to further your education in British culture. And may you never again be brought before me. Oh, yes, sir, of course. Here comes the alliteration. On my life, I swear I'll never set foot in a courtroom again. I'm transported to tears. Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned. Feb 3:17 p.m. The Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber. Oh, locum. Wait, you mean me? Of course! Is there another locum here? Is there even one? Compared to the original locum student, Mr. Naruhoda Esquire, your name has become rather short, hasn't it? What's wrong with using my actual name? Oh, at last, I'm free! I'm free! Joyful, joyous, jubilant, jubilation! Heady, hearty, happiness, hurrah! Oh, I'm pleased. Mr. Natsume is delighted. Would it be so hard just to say that then? Locum, you did it. You saved me from the brink. Well, what happened to the poor woman was in no way your fault after all. I'm just glad everyone can see that now. No, 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 not that! Lovely, loyal, locum, lawyer. Yes? I mean, as I said before, I have just never got used to life here in Great Britain. Every time I look over my shoulder, I see foreigners, I see towering brick buildings, and from high up windows, I see them looking down on me, laughing. Look at that little hunchback. Oh dear, I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsume. But today, you locum lawyer gave my gloom the boot. You stood firm behind that baronial bench before all those babbling British. You battled to the bitter end and laying bare the baffling truth. And when I beheld the blinding fireworks among the beams of the Bailey's roof, I bellowed, "Behold, the best barrister ever born!" Well, that's very flattering, and we're very pleased for you. This has given me a wonderful anecdote to recount to my old friends back in Japan. An anecdote? Is that what's to become of all my hard work? There you are, my dear fellow. Oh God, is this... This is Sholmes. I apologize for keeping you waiting. I rose late this morning. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, what a pleasure to see you. I see I am here not a moment too soon. A disaster has been averted, I'm glad to say. Fuck off, Sholmes. Oh. The trial should begin presently, Mr. Naruhodo. And I wish you the very best of luck. It's just finished. What? No, then my haste was in vain. Ah, it's you, Herlock Sholmes. Oh, have we met, sir? Wow. This is Mr. Natsume, the man you had arrested, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters have taken place in the gloom, either of your bleak lodgings or that prison cell. I simply couldn't paste that curious face in the light. Charming. This is all your fault, Herlock Sholmes. You're the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. Gonna give you a piece of my battery. Piece of battery depleted, I know, right? Come on. Oh, God. Why are you not, like, detecting this battery? I think I have to repair this other, controller. Pair. Okay. I'm gonna give you a piece of my mind. My apologies, sir, but I assure you, I have pleased you now. You're the fellow who abandoned that poor young lady and ran off, are you not? Ah. Had she been taken to hospital more urgently, I feel perhaps she would have regained consciousness by now. Oh. But it was unavoidable, I'm sure. We are but human after all. Anyone would have been shaken by such an experience. What are you talking about? I do feel very badly about how I behaved. Well, never mind now then. What was it that you wanted to say to me, sir? Nothing. Priceless. Oh, I am sorry, really, but... that was quite priceless. Poor Soseki-san. Still, on the bright side, you've had an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny. And it would seem you were not even found guilty. But there is no bright side. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Natsume? Even after this, I'm still cursed by the spirits. And now by the Reaper. Ah, Lord Van Zeeks. I haven't forgotten, you know, what facing that man in court means. Even if you're found not guilty, you're still doomed. It will be alright, Mr. Natsume. If the Reaper appears trying to make trouble, I will protect you. Hiya! Why did you have to, like, take me down with a perfectly executed Susato takedown? Much as I like being turned on my head, a bit of warning might be nice next time, Miss Susato. Australia mode. So, Mr. Natsume, what do you intend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experiences to your friends back in Japan. Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon. Oh. It has already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I visited universities, libraries, bookshops. I've been honored with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of literature here and the city it has shaped. And I've come to realize that it is my calling to sail home and tell my fellow countrymen about it. That's very touching, Mr. Natsume. Or in perhaps less veiled terms, you wish to withdraw halfway around the world to escape the terror of the Reaper's curse. That's not it at all! The more I learn of literature, the more this strange feeling claws at my insides. I feel compelled to return to my roots and attempt to pen a work of my own. Oh, I see. A work of literature by Soseki-san. Could be an interesting read. And what about Miss Susato and yourself, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry, what about us? Will you return to Japan alongside your mustached compatriot? Why would we? A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London. And only now does it feel as though we have finally found our feet. And you are accommodated in a hotel at present, are you not? That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us. I've calculated we can only afford another 10 nights before our entire budget is exhausted. Well then, you could take my lodgings. Oh, the windowless room? But what it lacks in windows, it more than makes up for with a floor, a ceiling, and walls. Great. And of course, I'd be happy to leave behind the accursed evil spirit. Oh my, an evil spirit? Oh yes, it tries to suffocate you while you sleep. It's an infallible wake-up call. We'll think about it if that's alright. Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me? Really? Well, a vacancy has conveniently presented itself. Though it is up in the attic, I might add. Are you sure it isn't just a storage loft? I spoke with the landlady this very morning on the matter of price, and Iris is cleaning the room as we speak. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of. Oh, this is simply wonderful. What an honor to be invited to take lodgings in the great detective's office's attic. I'm too overcome for words. So suggesting we look elsewhere is out then. Then it is settled. Iris will prepare a welcome dinner this evening. And you must come too, Mr. Natsume. I insist. I don't know what to say. But thank you, and yes. Okay, you ask Iris, who is a 10-year-old, to do the cleaning and cooking. Wonderful. Then I'll go and complete the paperwork for your formal release. It shan't take long. Somebody's happy. Locum. I knew that you wouldn't let me down. I'm truly delighted to have met you here in London. Likewise, Mr. Natsume. It's been a privilege meeting you too. It's a shame that we're going to have to say goodbye so soon. Well, I've come to realize that I belong in Japan. But Locum, we'll meet again one day. Yes, I'm sure. And hopefully by then, I'll be a successful lawyer. Hopefully by then, I'll be a successful author. Well, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh lol, just came across a TV series that has a very familiar looking synopsis, just change the names and time period, and it's basically a plot of one of the earlier chapters in the game. Lavishly, okay. Imogen Scott finds herself in the wrong place, wrong time, and becomes a prime suspect in a locked room murder mystery. A lavishly restored Mediterranean ocean liner. Every guest and exhausted crew member the problem. She must... Rufus Cotsworth, the girl's greatest death. Well... in the original Japanese... I think in the original Japanese version of this one, this Sholmes is actually Sherlock Holmes. So, they probably changed it in the English version to just, you know, give a pun to the name. I have little doubt that Mr. Natsume will be released in time for dinner this evening. And so, with Soseki-san's innocence successfully established, we rode with Mr. Sholmes to what was to become our new home, 221B Baker Street. Oh. Well, this is a good place. 20th February, 4:41 p.m. The Attic Room. Not bad, not bad. So this... It has a window. It has a window though. It's to be our new office, yes. Our office? I rather like the sound of that. Me too. It's simply wonderful, isn't it? I hope you can see this, Kazuma. It's only a small step. But I like to think we're getting a little closer to your dream now. So my dear fellows, do you like the place? Oh, now you don't have a coat and a hat. Yes, thank you so much. It's a delightful room, Mr. Sholmes. I simply adore it. Good, I'm pleased to hear it. Iris and I are delighted to welcome you. I hope everyone's hungry. It's nearly time for dinner. We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsume arrives. We've had a lot to celebrate. Iris, you must let me help you. Alright then, Susie. You can be in charge of the salad. Splendid. Of course, let the girls work for food, for the dinner. Anyway, so Mr. Naruhodo, how does it feel to have your own office in the capital? It's very exciting, actually. I can't help wondering what adventures await us. Those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at this premises. Until I discovered the dark truth about the city of London, that is. Sorry? London is a glorious place full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity, and mirth. But the brightest of lights cast the darkest of shadows. Shadows? What do you mean? Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So once again, Mr. Naruhodo. Welcome to London. Very ominous greeting. Of course, at the time, I had no idea of the significance of those words Mr. Sholmes so casually spoke. But it wasn't long before my turn came to lift the facade and see the true depth of the murk that lay behind it. The end. Ah, landed in London. Alright. GG. Okay. We have the last episode or the last case, so I won't start that tonight. However, I want to check the extras up to case 4. So apparently there are extras, so... Play some short escapades. Alright. So yeah, let's probably check this one. I don't know how long this will take actually. The first of 8 escapades, Ryunosuke finds 2 troublemaking witnesses from his earlier trial having a battle for it in the Defendant's Antechamber, leading to a real tongue lashing. You're about to play the escapade entitled Episode 1 in the Defendant's Antechamber. This escapade includes spoilers about the first game's story. Continue. Yes. So hopefully this is a short one, like 10 to 20 minutes. If it's not, then I probably regret why I clicked this. Anyway, 22nd November, 3:08 p.m. Supreme Court of Judicature, Defendant's Antechamber 5. Oh, okay. This is like... So we're... So these are the first 2 witnesses. Like the Curio Collector and... Mr. Soldier with a baby. Okay. Just look at my priceless treasure now. Myself, I have scrubbed and scrubbed. But the repellent of odor meat will never be repelled from its resplendent surface again. I told you it was the baby's fault. But you have it back in your possession at least. You should be grateful, old man. How dare you? Excuse me, but I just like to get at that Zabuton cushion there if I could. Rest assured, you miserable military malefactor, this is not over. Incarceration awaits those who would defraud a senior citizen for his priceless treasures. Watch your tongue, old man. Mark my words, I won't. Sorry, Sergeant, but could I just get at that Zabuton cushion there as well? You could, like, walk around them. How small is that room? Oh. I won't go to jail. Never. Imagine if I did. The very next day, my boy would starve without the chain of command in place to provide for him. Using the child to protect yourself? Myself, I call that absolute cowardice. Oh, really? And who just employed the old, poor, defenseless senior citizen tactic? The only way to fight an enemy who's using underhand tactics is with a tit-for-tat strategy. Sorry to interrupt again, but I just need to get at that Western-style cushion on there on the sofa. Enough of this insubordination. What do you want, man? Oh, please, don't mind me. Aha! Do my eyes deceive me, or is this the wide-eyed criminal from the trial before? Wide-eyed perhaps, but criminal no. What is this unhealthy fascination you exhibit with the seating arrangements of others, Why were you peering under the cushion of this upholstered seat? Oh well, the thing is... Any luck? Did you find it? Oh, it's Kazuma. No, sadly not. I don't think it's here, Kazuma. You really are a liability, Ryunosuke. Report at once! Have you lost something? Is that it? Yes, we were just on our way to a party to celebrate my friend's victory here when I realized that my university pin badge was missing. A university pin badge, you say? Yes, from my collar here, you see. Wait, I don't have court record. Affirmative. Uniforms must be kept in prime condition at all times. A missing badge is unacceptable. I thought if I looked around, it would probably turn up somewhere. Like the old tale of the Koban coin in the stake. A parable of which I am actually aware. But I've exhausted my search now, really. The only logical conclusion is that someone must have stolen it. Don't look at me, I just don't find any old metal objects irresistible, you know. Imagine what would happen if little Trooper Aido here swallowed something like that. I'm afraid we'll have to give up, Ryunosuke. Still, if you tell the office your student number, they should be able to issue you with a new one. Don't tell me you don't know it. You should know your student number by heart. Yes, I don't remember my student number. I don't believe it. I mean, this is the second time you've lost your badge, isn't it? Third, actually. Wow. If you didn't think you could remember it, you should have made a note of it somewhere. I told you that until I was blue in the face the last time this happened. Ah, yes, I do seem to remember it's someone telling me something along those lines. It was you, was it? You can't even remember who told you that you needed to remember it. Well, student numbers are 6 digits, Kazuma. Who could remember 6 whole digits? My student number back in college was 8 digits. So, yeah. Yumei isn't exactly a long-established university, you know. All of our numbers are still rather low. In fact, they only use the last 3 digits. Well, that might help, I suppose. That might help. Ryunosuke, it's only 3 digits you needed to remember, just 3. Sorry, my brain is such a disappointment. Yes, well, anyway, young man, myself, I was greatly impressed with you in the courtroom today. Oh, you mean me? A lawyer already before you've even graduated, and such a loyal friend to this one. This one? What's that supposed to mean? Oh no, I still have much to learn. In fact, that was brought home to me in no uncertain terms only last year. My Achilles heel was spectacularly exposed by my best friend here. Indeed. What? By me? This is the first time I've heard about that. Yes, by Ryunosuke Naruhodo. You can't have forgotten, surely. It was last summer at the speech contest. Speech contest? Ooh, that. Contestants had to take to the stage and deliver a public address on any subject they chose. We were competing to give the most compelling and powerful speech, and yours was great. It made a huge impression on the audience. Obviously, since I was a budding student of law, I was determined to win. And sure enough, one by one, my opposition fell when I reached the final at last. I came up against you. Yes, so you did. Not being rude, but when I first laid eyes on you, I thought to myself, this cheeky wide-eyed no-hoper is out of his depth. He's going to be a pushover. That's your version of not being rude, is it? Who is this jackass? Well, I played for my complacency because it brought me on that humiliating defeat. Defeat? How are your ranks compromised? My speech was going very well. I had the audience in the palm of my hand. They hung on my every word. And then, when I came to the very last line... Yes, what happened at the very last line? It was supposed to be a climactic end. Unfortunately, I completely fouled it up. Never! You mean you stumbled on your words? Spectacularly. Even now, I can't believe I ruined it. Well, what on earth did you say, man? Ryunosuke, you'd better say it. I still can't get my tongue around it. Sure, of course, I can still recall it perfectly. Wait, what? He's still alive? No. This is like... So we finished the case. I didn't start case 5. I was going through the extras. So this is the case 1 extra. This scene was directly after the case. So this was still in the court. Well, the court lobby. If you get what I mean. What you intended to say at the end of your speech was this. So arise, ladies and gentlemen, and applaud our forefathers' plight and the fight for filial piety. That's a mouthful. And what went wrong? What indeed? Myself, I see no problem the pronunciation of these paltry words. In that case, old man, I invite you to say it yourself. Very well, then I shall. So arise, ladies and gentlemen, and applaud our forefathers' plight and the fight for It's impossible. What was said again? So arise, ladies and gentlemen, and applaud our forefathers' plight and the fight for our filial piety. Yeah, it's quite a tongue twister. The arise, ladies and gentlemen part I delivered perfectly. But the next part had me floundering for a whole 5 minutes. By the end of it, I was on my knees in front of the podium, a blabbering mess. And that's when the audience started to heckle you. Arise, arise, they were shouting. Hell on earth. But then, of course, this man went and delivered his word-perfect speech with perfect ending. How did it go again? Let me see. So, my dear fellows, the message is simple. Treat your father and mother with respect. Something like that. I mean, talk about stating the obvious. But the fact is, I lost to that speech. Tongue-tied is the only way to describe it. Well, it's quite tricky to say, I agree. That final fight for filial piety, especially. And ever since that day, I've had this question whirling around my head. Why did our forefathers choose such an awkward phrase? Was it to mock their children? I mean, it should have never been... Ah! At least we're going to Great Britain soon. It might not come up much there. Wait, did I find the pin? Well, anyway, having lost the cursed contest, I came after you to ask you a question. How is it that you never trip up on your words? I inquired. Just use simple words. And you just gave me a broad smile and said, speaking fast is my hobby. I mean, really? What kind of a hobby is that? Do you think you could take your hand off your sword? Besides, it's just a way to pass the time. After that, you started talking to me 10 to the dozen, like you were possessed almost. Honestly, you can't imagine the shock I suffered that day. You really can't. You're right, I really can't. Speaking fast is just the sort of hobby I'd expect a civilian like you to waste time on. Well, you have to practice, of course, but there are some simple things to start with. Like this famous one, for example. Swift samurai sword swipe silently sideways. Ah yes, even a decrepit tongue in an ailing frame such as mine can find its way around that one. I have no doubt, it's just a bit of fun really. I can't imagine anyone would struggle to say it. Isn't that right, Kazuma? Swift samurai! A blabbering mess by word too. It's not just the samurai, every good soldier needs to be able to handle a sword. That's why I've been busy teaching Ida the finer points of swordplay, none of this wordplay nonsense, Private. Come to think of it, not long after that we started to attend lectures together, didn't we? And we got into that debate about family values at the Sukiyaki place on campus, do you remember? Yes, your argument was full of jokes and puns and wordplay as usual. I remember it well. Oh, was it? In any case, I swore that I would never let myself forget the shock you gave me back then. And as a symbol of how seriously I took that oath, I decided to wear this. My red Hachimaki headband. Is there an eye behind that headband? I'm sorry, Kazuma. Yes. You've lost me there, I'm afraid. I don't see the link. What does your red headband have to do with your oath? Because it'll always remind me of that smug look on your face as you utter those tantalizing words. What words? You mean another tongue twister? I practiced and practiced until my tongue bled, but in the end I mastered it. Mastered what? Well, I think it's time you heard this actually. Listen carefully now. Here goes. Red headband, red headband, lead headband, dead headband. There, we're perfect, see? The baby's crying. I'd actually been meaning to ask you about that. About the story behind your headband, I mean. Well, now you know. So that'll never forget the shock and humiliation of that day. That's why I wear this red headband every single day without fail. Well, I don't know exactly how much of a shock you think you had back then, but it can't be more than the shock you've just given me now. What do you mean? Well, I'm sorry to have to tell you, but the tongue twister I said didn't go the way you seem to have remembered it. Huh? It's just as famous as Swift Samurai Sword, so I can't believe you don't know it really. It goes red bread pan, lead bread pan, dead bread man. Wait, what? Bright red. Ah! It seems I've knocked some wine out of that headband of yours. It's not too late, Private. You could always start wearing a red bread pan in your head instead. Your youthful vigor is magnificent, young man. Your cheeks are glowing redder than your hachimaki. Rah! Why do so many words have to be so similar? It's called the English language. So looking forward to Great Britain then, where you'll have to deliver speeches in court in English. I suppose I can always sell seashells on the seashells on the seashore. Yep, that's the extra of the first episode. All right. All right. Okay, I think I'll end it here. We'll check the other extras in the next couple of streams. So, anyway, all right. I guess that'll be it for the night. So everyone, thank you very much for joining. Let me just snooze this because we were reading out. Anyway, yep. Again, everyone, thank you very much for joining. Really do appreciate it. So yeah, we'll continue this next week. So my planned schedule is on Thursday. I'll either do Portal or I'll do a Mario Maker 1 stream. Then on Saturday, it's the usual Mario Maker 2 trolls. Then next week, Monday, if we still have Portal, we'll continue Portal. Otherwise, we'll do an Ace Attorney for the rest of the week then. So yeah, hopefully we'll finish Case 5 by then. Then the next week after that, I think the next Ace Attorney trilogy drops. Then we'll play Ace Attorney 6. So that'll be an interesting 5 or so cases as well. We go back to normal Ace Attorney mode. Anyway, alright, everyone, thank you very much. Again, socials. So yep, my Twitter and YouTube page are there. Please do check those out. Hopefully, I would get to 500 subs in YouTube soon so I can start monetizing. And yeah, once I get that ball rolling, hopefully, yeah, we can put more into the YouTube channel as well. Exclamation point coleslaw. I don't have a coleslaw command, Aniv. Alright, yeah, let us find someone to raid. You know what? I guess we raid. I have an idea who will raid. Let's just check if you are still on and how long have you been streaming. Alright, we'll raid Dandy. Hey, no worries, Tilted. Yep, we'll raid the Dandy Gamer. He is doing a puzzle game, I think, called Viewfinder. So this will be interesting. Alright. Yep, let's go raid Dandy. Again, everyone, thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.